Hello again, John Denver fans. Corinne Smith here, once again continuing our review of John's albums as they occurred in chronological order. And we have reached the years of 1982 and 1983. We have 4 albums to talk about today. In March of 1982, we got Seasons of the Heart. There are 11 songs on here, and John wrote or helped to write all but 2 of them. Last time, we talked about Some Days Are Diamonds, the country album that RCA pretty much forced John to do, and he didn't really want to do it. Well, with Seasons of the Heart, we are back to John's writing and John's signature style. This is an album produced by John and Barney Wyckoff, and John dedicated it to longtime producer Milt Oken in the credits. This is a single record album, although the cover does open up. And there you see John walking down into the Purple Dragon Cave in China. This is a hint. We're getting an international flavor with this album. Okay, the songs are all written on the back. Inside we have an original poem by Joe Henry. And we also have a very moving photograph of John and Annie. This is moving also because in a few months after this was released, they would be following divorce procedures. So take a good look of John and Annie right there. The liner, of course, has all of the lyrics to all of the songs, yay, and all of the credits. So you've got John walking into Purple Dragon Cave in China. By now his popularity allowed him to travel all around the world. And so he could visit new places, meet new people. We are not in the Rocky Mountains anymore with this album. Okay? John is expanding his horizons, and he's taking us along with him. He still sings about romance and relationships too. But overall, we are given a global view with songs that are mostly on the quiet and thoughtful side, but often with catchy lyrics and catchy choruses. We'll hear a few of them in a couple minutes. Side 1 starts with the song Seasons of the Heart, which is a love song and a breakup song all at the same time. Opposite Tables is a song that could refer to international relations, and people in one part of the world not understanding those in another part of the world. Part of the chorus goes, if they only knew the things that I know, if they only could see the things that I see. Relatively Speaking has lyrics written by Arthur Hancock, and John wrote the music, and it is about connections of all kinds. The song Dreams was written by Stephen Geyer. Nothing But a Breeze was written by Jesse Winchester, and it pumps up the beat a little bit on this side. And then the last song on the first side is What One Man Can Do, which John wrote and dedicated to Buckminster Fuller on his 85th birthday in 1980. What one man can do is dream. What one man can do is love. What one man can do is change the world and make it young again. Here we see what one man can do. John wrote it about his friend and mentor, Buckminster Fuller, but couldn't we say the same thing about John? Have you ever attended any of his WinStar conferences or ever heard him speak about environmental issues or matters of social justice? This theme came up over and over again, the power of the individual, how one person can make a difference. Yes, still, even today. And then we flip to the second side, which starts with the long-distance love song Shanghai Breezes. And the moon and the stars are the same ones you see. It's the same old sun up in the sky. And your love in my life is like heaven to me, like the breezes here in old Shanghai. John sings it better. But this is the single from this album. It spent a few weeks on the charts in April of 1982. By the way, Seasons of the Heart, first song on the album, was also released as a single, but it didn't gain traction. Then the song Islands hits at an analogy between geographical islands and people, with the tagline, we are so much more than islands. Heart to Heart is another long-distance love song Your heart to mine, my heart to yours. Talk about opening windows, talk about opening doors. My heart to yours, your heart to mine. Love is a light that shines from heart to heart. Another memorable chorus. John sings it better. As usual, the second to the last cut on the album is probably meant to be the climax, and here it is John's solo version of Perhaps Love. We have discussed this song multiple times in the last couple of episodes. Again, if you want the duet with Placido Domingo, then you have to get the album. Well, one place you can get it is the album of Placido Domingo, Perhaps Love. You know, your options are probably multiple in our technological world, but it is not on this one. John sings it solo on this one. You will hear harmony, but if you listen carefully, it's him singing along with himself. He also cuts the song short here. On that duet version, they maybe to spend more time with one another, they do another interlude and another verse or chorus, and he doesn't do that here. It's a shorter version here. And then the album ends with a song that John wrote with Joe Henry called Children of the Universe. It's another global kind of view. And very nicely, the last lines of the chorus of that song are, "It's in your dream that you will know the seasons of the heart." So this makes it come full circle to an album that begins with a song called Seasons of the Heart, and a concluding song that ends with Season of the Heart as the last line of the song. It's the perfect conclusion, right? These albums are thoughtful creations. This one expands our horizons, expands our focus. We still have romance and wondering, and we're still reaching out to others too. And yet again, Seasons of the Heart is another album that deserves much more listening time than most of us have been giving it. By the way, Buckminster Fuller passed away in the summer of 1983, a little more than a year after this album came out. Please, if you have Seasons of the Heart in any format, put it into your regular playlist and listen to it a couple of times again. Pretty soon you will be singing along with John and singing along with all those catchy lyrics and catchy choruses. Now, 2 episodes ago, when I was talking about the year 1978, I showed you this double records greatest hits album from Germany, Henry John Deutschendorf, genannt John Denver, known as John Denver, with his real name, with German ancestry. Seine große Erfolge, his biggest successes or his greatest hits. And I showed you that it's a double record set, and really the first vinyl is the regular greatest hits album, and the second vinyl is the second greatest hits album. Okay, that's the way they did that. That made it very nice for people to get in one package. Well, in 1982, the Germans beat the Americans to the punch by releasing Volume 2 of Henry John Deutschendorf, genannt John Denver, Seine große Erfolge. Because we would not get John's third greatest hits album until November of 1984. So, what's going on here? Well, in sort of an instance of international foreshadowing, this album does contain a lot of the songs that we would eventually get in America on the third greatest hits album. This is a double record album, has all the songs listed in English on the back, has all of the lyrics listed in the middle in English. But these German producers went even farther to fill up 4 sides. They went back to some of John's earlier recordings and picked some unique choices, like Baby You Look Good to Me Tonight, I'd Rather Be a Cowboy, Ladies' Chains, one of my favorites, It Makes Me Giggle, To the Wild Country, Whiskey Basin Blues, Matthew, Rocky Mountain Suite, Cold Nights in Canada, Please Daddy Don't Get Drunk This Christmas, The Music Is You, and they chose to conclude this double record set with John's recitation of the narrative poem, The Box, written by Kendrew Lascaux, which we first heard in 1971 on the Poems, Prayers, and Promises album. Wow, that's really reaching back. That's great. That's great. As one of my German viewers told me, you know, back in the day, it was hard to get John's albums in Europe and in Germany. And even if you even if you found one, they were pretty expensive. So this was a way to get everybody to catch up. These two compilations made it possible for Germans and Europeans to catch up with the best of John's music. And again, you know, I prefer listening to the albums as they first appeared. Like I said, they're thoughtful creations, and not much for necessarily all the greatest hits albums. But you know what? If Seine große Erfolge, Henry John Deutschendorf, genannt John Denver, is all you have, these two albums together represent a lot of the best of John, at least up until like 1983. You know, so kudos to the guys who put this together. They're magnificent. To get The Box on there, are you kidding me? Pretty cool, pretty cool. And then, back in America, they're back. John teams up with the Muppets again for Rocky Mountain Holiday, which came out in May of 1983 because there was a TV special that aired on March 12th, 1983. This TV special, Rocky Mountain Holiday. Did you see it back then? I probably did, but I didn't quite remember it. But of course, I bought the album. The premise here is that John is taking all of the Muppets up into the mountains, the Rocky Mountains, for an outdoor camping adventure. And they sing about their outdoor adventures, and then later, as the sun goes down, they sing around the campfire. We have 14 songs on here. John wrote 3 of them. The 2 of his that are new to us are Hey Old Pal and Durango Mountain Caballero. But he also sings Poems, Prayers, and Promises at one point in the show. Kermit sings John Connor's song Grandma's Feather Bed, and they've adapted the first line to be when I was a little bitty tad just up off the floor. It's just funny. It's just funny. The Muppets sing a bunch of traditional songs like She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain, Down by the Old Mill Stream, and Home on the Range. John and Miss Piggy go for a horseback ride in front of Maroon Bells Mountains in Snowmass. I don't know how that happens, but they go for a horseback ride, and together they sing Tumbling Tumbleweeds, which segues into Happy Trails. Okay. You don't know on the record that they're going for a horseback ride, but you can see them on here. Songs that are new to us are Gone Fishin' by Nick and Charles Kenny, Take 'Em Away by Phil Bossum and Dennis Lee, Going Camping by Ray Charles, not the Ray Charles you're thinking of, and No One Like You by Andra Willis Mahalbarak. John also sings Mike Williams' poignant song, Catch Another Butterfly, which we have heard him perform many times. The album cover features pictures of the Muppets, of course. The liner notes have all of the lyrics, tell you which Muppet sings which song. And so, it's a pretty cool album. If you don't already have it, I'm going to make a recommendation that's going to sound kind of strange. I wouldn't get this album unless you get the actual TV special. It's available on VHS and DVD. I'm going to recommend you get the TV special instead, because then all of these, it's made up of different vignettes. It's a charming program. It's a charming program. It's made up of all these vignettes that John interacts with the Muppets. Fozzie Bear's always getting into scrapes of some kind. John's interactions with Little Robin, who is Kermit's young frog nephew. Do you remember Robin? John's interactions with Robin are really meaningful and beautiful. They're especially moving. And then you get to see John and Miss Piggy on horseback going up to Maroon Bells, singing Tumbling Tumbleweeds and Happy Trails. But then when you hear Catch Another Butterfly in the special, they put in another scene not related to this, where you see John and his children, Zachary and Anna Kate, flying kites in a meadow and seeing some baby farm animals. And so that's really special. Back around the campfire, John even tells a ghost story along with all the other songs that they're singing. So everything makes more sense when you see the program rather than just listening. When you see the program rather than just listening to the songs on the album, it's very charming. It's very charming. You don't have to be a kid to like this. You don't have to even be a fan of the Muppets to like this. It's just wonderful. Now, on both the VHS and the DVD, it says includes 16 family fun songs. I just told you this album has 14. What's up here? And when I watch the video, there's really 17 songs on here. What? I think maybe the producers thought that Tumbling Tumbleweeds and Moving into Happy Trails was just one song. Okay, so we'll give them that. But the other two that are special to the video that you don't get on the album are the other three is John singing Cool and Green and Shady, one of his earlier songs. The Muppets singing Oh How Lovely is the Evening, is the Evening. In English, nicht auf Deutsch, O wie wohl ist mir an Abend. Thank you, Herr Withers. The final song on the album is one that mirrors what we heard before with John and the Muppets for Christmas. And it's David Pomerantz's very moving song. It's in every one of us to be wise. Oh, it's a perfect ending. It's the way it's near the end of this album as well, but it is not on this one. So again, video has 3 more songs than the album does, and it makes more sense. So I recommend this, or however you can get it now, technologically speaking. You should also know that when these videos were released, they were not released until the year 2003. And evidently, the original show had a scene where John tried to convince one of the Muppets, maybe it was Fozzie Bear, that flying in an airplane was safe. And there was a flight vignette in the movie. And when the producers decided to release these to the public in 2003, they cut that part out. So neither the VHS nor the DVD has that scene in it, and I don't know if there's a way to even find a copy of the original movie with that scene in it. Even if it were possible to see it, would you want to see it? Isn't that still painful? I think for most of us it is. Also, on another tangent, if you watch closely in the video, by now John's not wearing a wedding ring. Again, consider getting the movie, not necessarily the album, or it'll make more sense if you've seen the movie and then you play the album, but if you want everything, then yeah, go ahead and get the album. Okay. But this is still charming. This is still charming. Now, 6 months after we got that second dose of John with the Muppets, we got It's About Time, which came out in November of 1983. There are 10 songs on here. John has full or partial credit for each one of them. And again, he and Barney Wyckoff produced this album with Milt Oken as the executive producer. Now, first off, let's talk image. I don't know about John with this white suit. What do you guys think? I think this is a Photoshop thing too, because is he really standing in front of Maroon Bells? I compared a picture, which I don't have with me, compared a picture of Maroon Bells, and he's supposed to be standing in front of Maroon Bells in a white suit? Really? And look at that program back there. It's from the same time period. In a white suit? Really? Do you remember when I showed you that when the second greatest hits, is this the second greatest hits? Or maybe it's the first greatest hits. No, it's the second greatest hits. Came out on CD. There's John in 1983, same year this came out. Gee, I wonder if this is the same photo session. I still think that's photoshopped. I think he was not standing in front of a bunch of aspen trees in a white suit with his tie flying in the wind, but his hair is fine. I don't know about the white suit, okay? I'm just going to make that point. Okay. Back to It's About Time. It is a single album, but it does open up. And I'm going to disappear for a minute here. Yeah, so what is that? What is that? Do you recognize that? So the inner cover is Buckminster Fuller's Dymaxion view of the world and the world game. The world game. The objective of the game would be to explore ways to make it possible for anybody and everybody in the human family to enjoy the total earth without any human interfering with any other human and without any human gaining advantage at the expense of another. Written by Buckminster Fuller. His world game. Okay. So this is John's additional memorial to his friend and mentor, Buckminster Fuller. I told you Buckminster Fuller passed away in the summer before this album came out. John also dedicated the album to his father, Air Force pilot Deutschendorf. There's also a picture of John flying on this album. So this makes sense because in a couple of the songs there are flying references and metaphors here. Did you hear me? There are some flying references and metaphors in some of these songs on the first side. So maybe you'll have to decide for yourself if you can handle that. As usual, the other themes are of love and relationships with a continuing focus on the global view, as witnessed by the world game. Side one, there are lyrics, by the way. There are lyrics on the liner. Yay, as usual. Thank you, producers. Okay, so side one starts with Hold On Tightly, which has a catchy chorus. Hold on tightly, let go lightly. There's always forgiveness and no one to blame. Something like that. Thought of You is a love song that John sings with high passion. Remember, he and Annie are divorced by this time. Something About is a love song with nature references and it has kind of a kicky beat to it. On the Wings of a Dream is a pensive song in which John thinks of his father and of mortality and of what life really means, and it can be heavy stuff. And then Flight, The Higher We Fly, also has flying references in it. It's a difficult song for me to hear because one of the memorials that I participated in after Columbus Day of 1997 was one where one of the presenters recited the lyrics to that song, which start, "Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the sky on laughter's silver wings." And to hear John sing it for himself and to think about what happened, it can get emotional. If you're paying attention, it can get emotional. The chorus is soothing, though. It goes, "The higher we fly, the farther we go, the closer we are to each other, the darker the night, the brighter the sky. In peace go my sisters and brothers." So one way to see it is that it's as if John has come back to say, it's okay, we're still together no matter what, the music ties us all together. So this is the impact this song has on me. Your results, of course, may vary. Side two Takes us back to relationships with the song Falling Out of Love. Like I said, John and Annie were divorced by this time. And you know, when I first heard this song, when this album came out, it didn't make much of an impression on me, probably because I was recently married myself. But 10 years later, when I saw John in concert in 1993, and I heard him sing Falling Out of Love, I was newly divorced, and I thought, oh my God, how does he know? How does he know? By that time, he was twice divorced. Anyway, if you can relate to this song, it may become one of your favorites. It's one of mine. It just shows you how much I was paying attention when this album came out initially, because I did not listen to this album very much. Not in 1983. Anyway, this album, admittedly, has just been sitting on the shelf for 30 years, and I haven't gone back to it. Anyway, going back to the songs, I Remember Romance continues the theme on the second side, complete with a contemplative interlude or two from Jim Horn on saxophone. John, I'm sorry you had to go through this. A lot of us do go through this kind of stuff. And then suddenly, on the second side, we are back to the American West with Wild Montana Skies, and with Emmylou Harris singing the harmonies. And about this song, John wrote, according to my complete lyrics book, Wild Montana Skies. You won't even know. I mean, a good writer can write anywhere, right? Wild Montana Skies, John says, I was visiting my doctor and his family in the Bitterroot Valley in Montana. One day I had to drive up to Missoula to pick up a package or something. I don't really remember. In any case, there had been a freeze the night before, and the fog and everything was like crystal. It was beautiful and yet a little treacherous for driving. On the way up and back, I wrote this story about a man growing up in a changing world that he didn't understand, and about the things he believed in that were rooted in a mother's prayer for a son she would never know. So he wrote this while he was driving on an icy road in Montana. Wow. Now, Wild Montana Skies was a single from this album, but it didn't register on the top 40 charts, but it did become one of the top 100 Western songs of all time, as named by the Western Writers of America. And then the song World Game has a reggae beat to it, which with the refrain, I want to play in the world game, I want to make it better than it's ever been before. Again, it's a nod to Buckminster Fuller. Also to the kinds of outside work that John was doing at the time. And this song, again, second to the last song, is probably meant as the key message and the climax to the production. And then the album ends with It's About Time, which John wrote with Glenn Hardin, another song with a global viewpoint. It's about time we realize we're all in this together. It's about time we find out it's all of us or none. It's about time we recognize it. These changes in the weather, it's about time. It's about changes, and it's about time. And John leaves us with this passionate message that's relevant for all of us, even more now, right, than it was then. Okay. When this album came out in CD format, they added another song to the middle of the, at least they didn't disturb the end, to the middle of the second set, and it's a song called The Way I Am. I'm going to include a link below to the channel John Denver Healing Time on Earth, because they have published this song on online, and you don't have to get the CD of this. So we've covered the years 1982 and 1983. What do you remember? What are your favorites? And we're going to keep on going, you know. This is just one more episode. This is just one episode. Thanks again for following along and for watching these videos and remembering John with me through his music. Now, thanks again. Like I said, I'm Corinne Smith. Join me next time. We're going to keep on going. In the meantime, put on Seasons of the Heart.